Welcome to the Orioles, Andrew Kashner. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. It is 4:28 Pacific time, which makes it 7:28 Eastern time. And O The Anthem is live from coast to coast, coming to you from the beautiful #OTA LA studios in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us for episode 202 of the O The Anthem podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for liking anything you do. All of it's appreciated. We say it every week because that's how much we love it.
And, of course, make sure you're following along on all social media. It's at O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Google+. And, of course, if you want to be a part of the show, you can leave a comment right here on YouTube, and we're able to read those comments on the show. Or you can text the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
That's 443-219-7595.
Yes.
So we're going to dive right in. If you guys are following on social media, first of all, you can follow me at Robert N. Cheek on all your social media. You can find Corey
at LegendsCB5.
And if they were watching last night.
Yes. Way late last night.
Really technically earlier this morning. You guys would have seen some interesting posts. And why is that, Corey?
Because we went to go see Black Panther last night.
Opening weekend on Movie Pass. And not only that, we got a private showing of Black Panther.
Well, I mean, mostly because nobody else was there. But yes, we did have a essentially private screening.
So we do this thing now with Movie Pass where we will have both Fandango and Movie Pass open just to see what kind of seat availability is there. And before we left the house, there were no seats taken in this showing of Black Panther.
4.
No, there was none before we left.
No, there was 4 the whole time.
Okay, all right, okay. Yeah. So there was 4 before we left, and we kept checking it, and the entire car ride, it's like, you know what? Like, there's got to be something wrong with Fandango. We're going to go there. It's going to be a packed theater. We're going to have to deal with it. But the magic number, apparently for us, is the after 12 showing on a Friday night.
Yeah.
I made the argument that I think everyone gets up early on Friday, and then they don't have it in them for a 12 o'clock show on Saturday.
Yeah.
Or on Friday night. And then on Saturday, you could sleep in, but then you can make the 12 o'clock show. But we had an empty theater for us, other than like the 2 people.
Yeah, there were 2 other people who were talking the whole time.
Corey always finds a way to ruin it. Anyway, so what are your thoughts? So then, obviously, we got to see Black Panther. It was amazing. Corey, let's get your shit on breakdown. Let's do that.
First of all, there will be no spoilers here.
Yes,
we're just going to speak sort of generically of the film. And if you want to hear more in-depth take, you can go to my YouTube page and check out the review for Black Panther, which will be coming up hopefully Tuesday. That's my goal right now.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I got some in the queue I got to release, and then those will happen this weekend, and then hopefully Black Panther Monday or Tuesday. But I loved it. I thought it was great. It has its usual flaws because it's a comic book movie and a superhero movie, and there's sort of like it can't be perfect because you have to like set up the universe and set up the world and stuff like that. But other than the usual stuff that every single superhero movie has to do, I thought it was fantastic and well acted. And I want to see everything Ryan Coogler makes like opening weekend. I'm not gonna wait on Ryan Coogler movies. And
you'd seen some of the stuff he'd made before, right?
Yeah, Creed and Fruitvale Station.
And I never saw Fruitvale Station, but I heard good things.
Really should.
Yeah,
really
I saw Creed, and for what it was, I mean, that you almost have to use the Fast and the Furious rules for Creed because one of the things we said is I feel like Ryan Coogler is capable of some really great things, but he now, with Creed and with Black Panther, has been boxed in a universe where you have to stay in this universe in a way.
Yeah.
And obviously, Fruitvale Station, he didn't have to, and everyone raves about how the job that he did on it just because of that. So,
well, I mean, like Creed Creed was a legitimately good movie. I think if anything, it was the fact that Rocky is kind of a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Not in the sense that like he's like ridiculous or anything like that, but like anytime Rocky Balboa is in a movie, it's like Roger Rabbit. Like Roger Rabbit was a really great movie, but you still had to incorporate the cartoon Roger Rabbit in it.
Right.
So like there's some bending to the rules that has to go on with that kind of a movie, and this is the same thing with Creed. But Creed did it great, where it was like very... God, I'm trying to remember exactly my thoughts on Creed, like 2 years later or whatever. It was like a legitimate sports movie of a more recent vintage.
Yeah.
And sort of gave like the hat tip to Rocky, which was what I liked.
Yeah. But again, you have to imagine that Stallone's going to be reading the things that you write.
Yeah.
And in this, you have to remember that Disney, in the end, is going to have one of the final says on what this movie looks like.
Well,
So,
what I like about Coogler is that he does have the balls where like he was just like Fruitvale opened and his agents are like, what would you like to do now? And he's like, well, I've always wanted to make a Rocky movie. And they're like, what Rocky movie would you like to make? And he's like, Apollo Creed's son.
yeah, okay.
It's like, all right, let's get Sly on the phone.
Let's see what we can do.
Up. Yeah.
And then you come out of that and you're like, well, what did you like to do now? Well, comic book movies are kind of big now. Maybe comic book movies?
Has anyone made a Black Panther yet?
I mean, honestly, he's got a long and great career, and I'm looking forward to whatever he comes up with.
I will say this, though. Sometimes I talked about it in my review for All the Money in the World, which is like sometimes the happy accidents that happen where, you know, like you lose Kevin Spacey, but you get
Christopher Plummer.
And he did a great job in that movie. And I think that I enjoyed the Ryan Coogler version of this movie, I think, way more than I would have I think it was Ava DuVernay who was supposed to do it originally.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if I would enjoy the Ava DuVernay version of this movie as much as Coogler.
I don't know.
Because she's a more particular type of film. I mean, it'd be like if you said, like, you know, Quentin Tarantino wants to do the next Captain America, you'd be like, well, yeah, he's really good
at what he does.
Yeah, I don't know if this is really what he should be doing, though.
And I don't know that Disney puts out the Ava DuVernay version of this movie. I feel like that's where you bring in another director later to reshoot and recut and give you something that is better than their product. She is fantastic at what she does. I don't know that the superhero comic book movie is where her strength would lie.
I think that if we had the Ava DuVernay version of this movie, we wouldn't have the guy playing. We wouldn't have Andy Serkis.
No.
In this movie, like that's essentially and I'm not saying like I don't want to spoil it, but Andy Serkis plays a very specific character, which is hilarious. Yeah. So go see it. Oh, also, just a quick aside. Every single dumb white person who I hear on Facebook talking about how Black Panther is going to be the unraveling of civilization, shut the fuck up.
Yes.
Please. Like,
how about go see the movie?
Go fucking see the movie. It's not that bad. It's not... Nobody's going to be walking out of there like, you know, like Lily White walking in and then walk out with a dashiki and...
Dashiki.
Dashiki, sorry.
Yeah. But, you know, I don't understand why everyone's getting so worked up. Like, we literally have watched 10, 15 years since 2008. So 10 years. 10 years of these comic book movies where it's white, male-driven, white cast, just driving the whole thing. And we never walked out of there saying, you know what? White people are awesome. Like, this is how it's going to change my whole life. You go in there, you're going to see a fantastic movie. You're going to see a visually stunning movie. It's got... I think we said right when we got back, it's got just the right level of undertone to it, and it will send a message, but it doesn't beat you over the head with it. And we're going to walk out and say, hey, that is a great comic book movie experience. And I think you said we have to use the Fast and the Furious rule. I don't think so. I think that it stands alone on its own without that.
I think the... Think about it like this. I think people saw Black Panther coming out and thought that it was going to be 50% more than what Wonder Woman had emboldened in women when it was released. Like, they're just going to take the opportunity and push it a little bit too far. I'd say Coogler was like 10% back. Like, hold it back 10% from where Wonder Woman was. So if you survived the great woman uprising of the Wonder Woman screenings of last year, then I think you'll be okay with Black Panther. We're not going to... There's nothing... Don't worry, like it's fine.
And it's
it's a goddamn movie at the end of the day. It's not Dr. King saying I have a dream.
Right.
It's a movie, but it's a wonderful movie and should be taken in by everybody.
Yeah, I think people were thinking it was going to be like blaxploitation style, that it was going to be like a 70s Shaft movie and just with modern characters. And, you know, the one thing I keep seeing pop up on Twitter is the like hate Whitey. Everything's going to be hate Whitey. And there was absolutely none of that.
Yeah.
There was some comic relief. Some comic relief in that vein, but that was his delicate way of dealing with it.
There was so many times where it was just sort of like, have you ever seen like the things on Twitter where it's just like, you know nothing about nuclear physics or like how rockets work or something like that, and then the person replies like, except for the 20 years that I've spent in NASA rocket design, is that besides that point you mean? Like there's sort of a like dumb white people walk into the universe here, and then it's just sort of like, oh, this guy is speaking out of turn.
Yes.
Like he doesn't know what's up.
Right.
Like we're just gonna let him. We're gonna just let him talk. But
let me white-splain you for a second. Go ahead and finish what you're saying. I'm gonna white-splain you.
Yeah.
But overall, fantastic movie. In a couple of weeks, I'd like to come back to it. This is the kind of thing, by the way, why I love Movie Pass, because we can go again in 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And like take it in when it's not brand new and it's also not 2:00 in the morning. And we'll see it again, and we'll talk more about it when it's a little more comfortable to talk spoilers when everybody gets a chance to see it. But go see it, please.
Yes.
Go see it.
And don't forget to check out my review early next week.
And there will be spoilers there, so be careful.
Well, I won't spoil things, but I'll get into the movie a little bit more.
Yeah. So the one other side note on this is all of the bullshit I'm seeing on Twitter, especially, and guys, I have been the one who advocates so strongly for Twitter as a news source, but it's a lot like digging through a garbage can to find the newspaper. Like, there's a lot of trash in there, and there is some good news, but you have to just dig through the trash. And there's been a lot of stories this week about people who are faking assaults at Black Panther, and that I'd like to repeat that this is not the movie that's going to get you up in arms.
If you let Selma come and go through theaters without any kind of a problem, then you're going to be fine with Black Panther. Yeah. It's not.
And a big fuck you to the Towson Cinemark. If we couldn't hate Towson a little bit more, they buy into this bullshit fake stories about assaults at movie theaters, and that was their excuse for canceling all the showings of Black Panther. So
some kid with a pastel polo shirt and bright colored like rose shorts.
Yeah, yeah.
And just what are the docksiders?
Docks, the boat shoes.
Yeah. Those kids, they're the reason that there wasn't a Black Panther screening at Towson Cinemark.
It's frustrating to me because I see like all.
Because I hate some of those kids who are just like, oh my god, a black person's here. Like, what is there trouble about? I'm just like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and I know that everyone is just saying like, why are we like taking kids from schools to go see it? And I mean, I don't want to get into the whole thing. Go see it, and in a couple weeks we'll talk about it more. But representation is important. And when Towson cancels these showings, and a bunch of school kids who are going to go see it together don't get to see it because of that, like, you are extrapolating the problem that has existed and is finally coming to the surface. So shame on you, Towson Cinemark. And shame on us, because we are once again about to dive into one of the topics that I don't know if people enjoy it the most, but certainly we do hear about it in the week after our show. But we have to talk about it. It's been in the news all week this week. It's something that we can't ignore, and that is the events that happened in Parkland, Florida.
Yes.
And as per usual, Corey and I have two very different perspectives on it, and we want to make sure that we don't dominate the next hour or what's left of the show, the next 45 minutes with the conversation. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn on a timer, and this timer is going to have 15 minutes in it, if I can figure out how to do that.
How to add.
Now, you know what? We'll just do a stopwatch.
Okay.
Go. So we got 15 minutes. 15 minutes to talk about this, and then we're going to drop it. We're going to move on to Baltimore news because we have a lot of stuff that we want to talk about this week. So go ahead, Corey. What are your give me your initial volley.
My initial volley is that... What?
Thoughts and prayers.
First off, I'm horrified that kids who go to school to learn can be killed like this. But that's always been the case, and I'm tired of not having other people just accept that as like a reason to be upset. I've said before, I don't want to take your guns away. I'm fine with people who like guns and who want guns. But we've come dangerously close to none of these excuses make sense anymore. So can we please just do something that helps the problem? The kid had been reported to the FBI a couple times. Like, he was on their radar and nothing was done about it. Some change to the system needs to be made where we can try and correct if one of these things didn't happen. If for whatever reason this event got shut down because proper procedure was followed, then and 17 kids are alive as opposed to 17 kids being dead, then I'll take that as a victory. Anytime we can stop this from happening in the future is a victory for me. What can we do to get to less of this is basically my point.
Okay, so I mean, we agree with that then. Like, my whole point is, I mean, Corey doesn't want to take your guns away. I don't want to take your guns away. I enjoy the rights of ownership of guns. The school shooting is a tragedy, and we've had 18 of them in the first 30, 45 days of the year, and that's just a shame. We shouldn't have to live in a world where that's the case.
Yeah, especially when nowhere else in the world lives within as a shocking a number as we do.
Yes. The focus, though, is too often on the guns themselves and the access. And I've argued before that I'm fine with certain restrictions that will make the gun safer, like requiring that you do qualification tests with a gun before you take the ownership of it. But in the end, you cannot say no more guns. You cannot just take away a constitutional right. That is the difference. And I have heard a lot more this week about the Australian example, that between 1987 and 1996, Australia had 4 mass shootings. And in 1996, after the worst one in their history, they said, okay, no more guns. We're taking them all away. It's illegal. Only the police will have guns. And there's not been a single mass shooting in Australia since. That's all true, all very true. But the Australia doesn't have embodied in its constitution, the heart of its law document, a right to bear arms.
Yeah.
It also doesn't have a problem between its populace and the police the same way that the U.S. does. So if we were going to go the direction of saying, hey, no police have guns either, okay, but do you think they're going to be willing to do that?
No,
Absolutely not.
no,
Of course
but-
not.
Here's the thing. I saw this line, I think, on Twitter, and it makes a lot of sense to me, which is the fact that this guy had had easy access to purchasing a firearm, but did not have easy access to mental health care is a problem, and that should be number one upon our list. You were talking before the show. We were sort of talking about rehabilitation and whether there be any hope or death penalty and all that sort of stuff.
Right, because one of the let's intro that point by saying one of the points is that I am very liberal on 90% of topics, and Corey tends to be more conservative on those same topics. But then we get to this one, and it's like we switch camps, and this is one of the limited ones. Another one might be the death penalty. That's how we got into that conversation. So yeah,
I mean, we're both for it, just in different sentiments.
true. Yeah,
I mean, I just want there to, I don't necessarily agree for an eye. So if you kill somebody, then therefore the state should kill you. That just seems a little bit much. And, I think there's situations, obviously there needs to be some sort of judgment in there at some point.
Yeah, you have the bonus rule. Every life that you take is more likely that you get the death penalty.
Yeah.
5 lives, okay, you're probably going to get the death penalty.
Right.
Which doesn't make sense to me. But
because I don't see the value in keeping somebody alive for the next
so
80 years just because
let's talk about
we
this
don't
kid.
have the death penalty.
This kid's 17.
Yes.
You think he should get the death penalty?
I don't know enough about this kid or his situation or anything like that to 100% say anything at this moment. If you're asking me, generally speaking, as somebody who can be charged as an adult kills 17 people, should he get the death penalty? Then yes, that to me seems like a pretty open and shut case for it. But I can be moved if you have some sort of reason for me to believe that he had no if for lack of a better term, he was mentally retarded and couldn't facilitate himself, then you could make an argument to me that he didn't know what he was doing, even though he went through so many steps to show that he did.
It's not about knowing what knowing what he's doing, though. It's about not being fully aware of the consequences of his actions. It's being driven by teenage levels of testosterone, by having brain chemistry that's completely off. And I always go back to Mark Geragos' argument. If you wanted to stop crime in this country, how could you do it?
Lock up everyone from 15 to 25. Every male 15 to 25.
That's the thing. If you locked up every single male 15 to 25 years old, you would reduce crime by 90% in this country, because by the statistics, those are the people who do the most crime. And the reason for that is that they're unstable, they're emotional, they're driven by these factors that they can't even understand inside their own minds, inside their own bodies. And when this 17-year-old kid
But I don't understand. I mean, if female president, then she would have her period all the time and she wouldn't be able to comprehend. I mean, isn't this the same argument that
Listen, I'm for the female president, just not that female president. Elizabeth Warren, 2020. I'm down with that.
That was a joke, by the way. I'm not worried about the PMSings of a president.
But I mean,
Trump's I am, but not.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. I'm always worried about that. What?
Worried about when it's Trump's time of the month.
Good Lord. But the thing here is this kid in 10 years, when he's 27, he's probably going to be in jail for the rest of his life. But at 27, he will be a way different person than he was at 17. And even if he didn't commit a crime, even if he didn't go to jail, he would be a way different person at 27 than he was at 17.
Yeah.
And to do something like the death penalty for someone who is 17 years old, it's not that he doesn't comprehend what he's doing. He knows every single step of the way.
Well, go to a story that you like. Adnan is in jail for life.
Yeah.
And you don't think that he did it, and you think he should be free and everything like that. And there's a big public consciousness about that. But if there wasn't the show talking about all the indiscrepancies in the case and like why he should be innocent, you wouldn't think twice about somebody who killed somebody going to jail for life.
No, I would. And in fact, the Supreme Court agrees
but I mean,
with me.
But I'm saying if you hear about a story, like if you're just reading through news articles and it says, murderer convicted to life in prison, you wouldn't go like, oh man, I really gotta start a change.org petition.
17-year-old given life in prison. Then yes, I would. And the Supreme Court agrees with me. Now they've undone. You can no longer give life without parole to someone who was a teen at the time of the committing of their crime. And that's where us starting to warm up to the idea that this 17-year-old kid, 18 is really a weird line to draw because yes, that's the line, but
this isn't. Hey, I picked up that candy bar and put it in my pocket by mistake because I was going to put it in the cart when my mom came around, but.
Yeah,
I just put it in my pocket and then I walked out and I forgot to pay for it. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to. I'll pay for it now. Like there's no making up for 17 people being dead.
No, there's not.
Like I don't have time for it. I would rather him just be out of the picture right now. I appreciate that more of the news coverage that I've been seeing has been talking more about the names of the victims than the name of the shooter.
Right.
All of them except for one. Guess which one?
Yeah.
I think that the quicker we can get from this kid fucked up real bad and let's get him the fuck out of our conversation, the better off we can be. Because like we the more we talk about shit like this, the less we're talking about the issue that led to 17 people being dead.
Which is what?
There was nothing stopping this kid from A, talking about wanting to shoot people, B, making people uncomfortable enough so that he could get expelled from school, essentially based off of the activity that regards his general creepiness. The fact that he was able to purchase a gun, get into a school, shoot so many people, and then try and sneak out like a regular student.
Yeah.
Like all this stuff, like these are not the actions of somebody who just stumbled into a fucking 17 homicide. Like
it's not, but it's about whether he can comprehend.
He was radicalized by white nationalists,
and that's the thing I want to get to. It's that these ideas were not his own. You took a young impressionable kid, an already angry kid, a kid who already had violent tendencies, and a kid who had a really rough life. And you put him into a gang mentality. You get him involved with these Republic of Florida crazy people, these stupid white nationalists.
Let's say, for just as an argument, let's say that we were at a party, and you introduced me to a black gentleman, and I went like, "Hey, what's up?" and then said the N-word.
Yeah,
and like tried to like slap his hand, and then he looked at me like horrified. And I explained, I'm sorry, I'm not of the right mind. I've been watching a lot of The Wire, and I just figured it was okay. And I didn't think about it. I've been brainwashed by this other thing that I've been doing. You wouldn't listen to that and say, like, that's good enough for me. Like, you don't know what you're talking about.
You sitting at home in your underwear watching The Wire is the same as a guy finding a family for the first time and people that supported him for the first time and finding a cohort that said, you are exactly right. You are perfect the way that you are for the first time. And then them, much like the guys on The Wire, saying, hey, you're still a teenager. Let's get you to do some of the fucked up shit that we're too scared to do because we don't want to go to jail. And we'll get you to do it instead. And then we'll just sit back and reap all the benefits of it and leave you to have the consequences. That's the problem. There are kids in Baltimore. There are 12-year-olds right now on the corners in Baltimore selling drugs. And they're put there by people who have made them feel special, who have made them feel a part of something, who've given them a home. And those kids can't fully comprehend what it is that they're doing. They don't know the choices they're making because they've been taken advantage of by smarter and manipulative people.
First of all, let's not just say the word. You say things like 12-year-old on the corner or 14-year-old on the corner. Which one was it? Like a Baltimore 14-year-old who's standing on the corner is essentially a 25-year-old man.
But he's
in terms of their mentality and their amount of getting it. They're just it's different. It's not the same.
But their amount of getting it does not take into account the fact that they've been manipulated.
200 years ago, you could marry a 16-year-old because everyone lived to 30. Like it's not because they were extra smart or anything like that. You grew up at a different time where you realized that there was less of it to deal with.
Right.
So when you're a 12-year-old kid in Baltimore in the drug trade, you don't necessarily think you're going to live a long and prosperous life, and 12 might be half of the life you end up getting. So you're going to enjoy every little bit of it.
Right. And why did they? That's because someone has told them you have nothing. You are nothing. They've been treated like nothing by their city, by their state. I mean, listen, we're going to talk about Catherine Pugh. She's certainly not doing anything to make 12-year-olds feel like they have a future in the city or otherwise. And when that's what you've been brainwashed into, it's easy to manipulate you into doing things that you wouldn't have done otherwise, and that you wouldn't at 25 you would look back and say, Christ, I was a dumbass kid. And you do that at 16, at 17. I look back at me at 17 now and say, I'm a dumbass kid.
Yeah.
Why did I do those stupid things?
Listen, every single day I get a reminder of how fucking dumb I was.
Yeah.
Like when I was in my early and mid 20s and stuff like that.
Wait, when you were in your early and mid 2017s? Yeah, definitely.
January 2017, I was really losing it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like I say it all the time. I'm just like, God damn it, I was such a fucking dumb 24-year-old.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have it back. I wish I could be different than I was then. But it's all part of growing as well. But the difference is that I never stumbled into 17 homicides at any point.
Yeah, and that's because you have never. If you grew up where I grew up, you might have. And if the times were different, if you were a 17-year-old now, if I was a young...
Times have changed when the Eastern Shore kid goes
listen.
Hey, Baltimore kid, if you grew up where I grew up, you know what it would be like to shoot down 17 kids at school.
No, all I'm saying is that I was a really angry kid. I was picked on as a kid. That made me angry.
Yeah.
I didn't get a lot of support at home. That didn't help. And if I'd fallen in with Ed Norton from American History X... which probably would have been a lot more impressive than these fucking yokels that are running Republic of Florida. But let's say I fell in with Republic of Maryland.
Yeah.
And there's these guys who are like, you know what? You know why these people treat you like shit? Because you're better than them and they know it. And they're trying to keep you down. And they just spent months indoctrinating me into the way that they thought. If I read the Turner Diaries at 15 instead of at 25,
yeah,
I can see young me falling into that mentality. Despite the fact that I am who I am now, and thank you guys for all your messages about how you appreciate my wokeness over the last 2 years. I really do love that you send me that, and I can see, going back on old episodes, how I've changed in my mentality, so I appreciate that. But, I mean, I could see 15-year-old me being this kid in Florida. Angry and virulent at the way that you've been treated, and then striking back at them.
We have almost no time left to discuss this.
Yeah.
Because we've reached the end of it, but I feel like we've spun wheels for a minute. So if I could, we'll just do a little bit of bonus time here on it.
Go ahead.
Let's ignore the actual details of what we think we know about this kid and where he was growing up and stuff like that, or like what his situation was, because we really don't know anything yet.
Yeah.
In terms of the scope of being able to properly dissect whether or not this had influence or that had influence or anything like that, a trial is going to have to determine that.
Yeah.
Or an investigation at the very least. So we gotta take some time. We gotta let these things happen. But in the meantime, we can say, what about if you're a congressman right now? Say you're the congressman for Parkland, Florida.
Yeah.
You have to go back to Washington and propose something.
Yeah.
What do you propose? What actual move do you make that shows that people in the Republican caucus get it? They're not heartless. I mean, like right now, Marco Rubio is being painted. I mean, just as an example.
Yeah.
But Marco Rubio is being painted like he pulled the trigger on some of these on some of these deaths too.
Yeah.
Because of his A+ rating from the NRA and how
his
much money
comments.
he's taken from the NRA.
The comments that he made after it, like,
Yeah.
and I get that. Yeah.
But
So what?
But I'm
what
saying
do you do?
you're Marco Rubio. You gotta go to do something
Yeah.
to fix this. What is your move?
Well, I can't be Marco Rubio because my first move is universal health care. Let's start addressing the number one problem, which is mental health care is in this country is an abomination and it needs to be addressed. And I know what people are going to say to that, and I will say whether the shooter is Mexican or Muslim or any of the other groups that we loved, or black, let's say a black teenager, wherever the groups are, I am always saying mental health care is important because in the end that does play a big factor. But how about this? How about that the people who are supposed to protect them do their job? Why wasn't the school reporting these threats that he was making? Why didn't the police take his ex-girlfriend's comments about how violent he was seriously?
Let's avoid details about the case because we just spin out onto like little tiny differences.
Okay, no, all I'm saying is that
there's things we don't know because we're so early after the event happening that we don't know all the details yet.
Did the FBI, were they ordered to investigate him?
They were informed about him.
Yes. Should they have investigated him?
Yes, probably.
And that is the failure. The failure is we are willing to spend money on a lot of things. But right now, this administration is not willing to spend money to protect the homeland. And that's what it comes down to. We're going to build new nuclear missiles to bomb China and Russia. Well, not Russia. China and North Korea. But we're not willing to make sure that the FBI is funded enough so that they can investigate these kind of threats that come up. We want our local police departments to have the money to buy, knock
Abrams
trucks.
Tanks.
Yeah, but we don't want them to have the money to fully investigate and treat the way that they should.
Yeah.
These complaints by women who are being abused by people. Because I can tell you this, the other side of this is every single one of these shooters, whether it's a grown man or a teenager like this kid, they all have domestic violence in their past. There is a strict line between violence against women and then acting out against society.
I have an idea. I would like to start a national program that can be set up at the state level for every single state, where there is a council of elders who is called upon anytime there's a particular gun question, a purchase about a gun question. So if I come in and I want to buy just a regular handgun, I say, I'm worried about, the neighborhood I live in has gotten really crazy. I'm a little bit worried about somebody breaking into my house. I just want to feel safe.
Yeah.
I want to have like a handgun that I can able to like hide underneath the bed and get quickly, and I can use without any massive training, and I can just defend myself in case of an emergency. The person who owns the gun shop should hear that story and go like, oh, this guy's not a threat, and be able to sell him the gun.
Yeah,
but then if somebody comes in like the guy in Vegas and buys like, fucking 15 AR-15s or whatever, like there should be the guy who owns the gun shop should just be like, I'm sorry, I got to put you on the phone with an elder. And then they get on the phone and they call the office and they get one of these people on the phone and they basically just talk through. If somebody comes in and they says they want to buy 20 guns, 20 of the exact same gun. Hold on.
Listen, you're making a false argument. This is the same argument you made while we talked about Vegas. He didn't buy all 20 in one sitting. He bought them at different places across a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I could go into 20 different shops and give them 20 different sob stories and get 20 guns. Your system doesn't work.
No, but I'm saying there should be some every so often somebody should just be kicked up to an elder just for the sake of argument, and I just want somebody who has to explain realistically why they need the gun, and
that's not how constitutional rights work. That's not how constitutional rights work. Do we have to go kick up to a council of elders to say, we'd like to go live on the internet and talk about the news?
If you get pulled
because
over,
we have freedom of speech, we can go do that.
If you get pulled over, and the cop says, "Where are you going tonight?" To
your fucking wife's house? That's where I'm going.
Is your response A, wherever you're going, or some sort of like I'm going home, some sort of broad, vague generality, or is it I don't have to fucking talk to you. I don't have to answer this question. Am I under arrest?
B.
For most people, what is it?
A.
Okay, so he's asking a question. He's not trying to. If you give him the I don't have to answer this question. Am I under arrest? Then he's going to be more likely to push you
Right.
than he would under A.
And that's all a problem with the police.
I would just like some sort of office where you have to talk to somebody who can calmly discuss the issues of gun rights.
Okay.
And determine whether or not you need a 15th AR-15.
We can agree on this, and I will say I fully backed the plan of the Council of Elders. And scientists, I need you to get started right now on making me a Council of Elders of Charlton Heston clones. Old guys, we'll put them on the Council of Elders, and then if there's any questions, we can just take that right on up to the Council of Elders.
Wayne LaPierre just picks up the phone. He's like, hello?
Yes, exactly.
I'd like to buy 15 guns. Sounds wonderful. You going to shoot a school?
Now,
I just like to imagine that Wayne LaPierre just like gets the news. It's just like, hey, tragic news. There were 17 kids just shot in high school in Parkland. It's just like, oh, wonderful. Great news. Guns are in the news again. I can't wait to discuss this.
But here's my point. My point
I'm
is
so happy all those kids are dead.
My point is that, God, I hope someone didn't tune in just right there, because that's weird. That was some play acting on Corey's part.
But I was doing Wayne LaPierre. Don't cut that out.
In the end, when you have a Council of Elders,
I will say this, a sidebar to that. I do want to be like Bill Simmons or something like that, where one day like one sentence that's taken out of context can make an entire article where it's like, Bill Simmons says that Ray Allen's the worst Celtic ever, and then you like listen to what he actually said, and he's just like, I just don't know if he worked that well with this team, and then they turn that into the massive article. I just want the one thing where it's just like, Corey Baker says he's happy kids are dead, and it's just like turns into an article.
Although if you read the actual script, it would say that you were happy the kids were dead.
Well, I mean, I was doing a character called Wayne LaPierre, who I don't think actually exists.
Here's my point. My point is that if you have this Council of Elders, whatever you want to call them, that they are still people, and we cannot have law unequally applied. That's what I always keep coming back to. What does the law say? Where are we? Right now, the Second Amendment, as upheld by the Supreme Court, says you have a personal right to own a firearm. And if you unequally apply the law because you don't like me, or because, I don't know, when you call up the Council of Elders, they're like, all right, let's dial it up on the picture phone, and it's you versus Chadwick Boseman. And Chadwick Boseman pops up on the screen. He's like, deny! And then you pop up on the screen, and he's like, all right, cherry white face, overweight white guy. All right, let me hit unmute here and just see what he said. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the law will be unequally applied. And that is not the way that we're supposed to have a society. So, is there a problem? Yes. Are there ways of dealing with it? Yes.
I'm trying to come up with a solution that will hopefully stop something from happening while still allowing idiots to own guns and not have to make some sort of draconian rule about how many guns you can have. You gotta do something. This is the moment in time where you have to make some sort of decision to try and fix the issue. If the problem was that the FBI didn't do their job, then why didn't they do their job? Do they need extra people? Do they need some sort of specialized task force? Do they need whatever? Figure out why it didn't work.
I'm agreed on that.
If part of the reason that, I mean, here's the thing. If everybody who goes and does a school shooting owns 17 guns, then at some point I'm going to say, all right, I don't give a shit what any of you have to say. I'm going to limit the number of guns you can own.
Except for, what about the other 12 million people who don't commit school shootings, who have 17?
Sorry, fuck. You should have done something about that before.
Okay, well, there is a small majority of people who use the freedom of speech to use it for hate speak, to push Nazi ideas. So, I'm sorry, we're going to take free speech away from everyone.
Words don't kill people.
Because that's the way it works.
Words don't kill people.
Bullshit. They killed 17 kids in Florida because some asshole who's a Nazi, who you love to defend so much, convinced a 17-year-old kid to go into school and kill people. That starts out with words. Hitler didn't kill anyone, not personally. His words inspired people to kill. So either we apply that rule the same way to everyone. Freedom of speech abused by some means freedom of speech for no one. Guns abused by some means no guns for anyone. They're both constitutional amendments, 1 and 2. So either they're applied the same way or they're not. That's what you have to live with. If you're going to make that rule for one of the constitutional amendments, then you slippery slope us into being able to do it for all of them. Can this assembly meet together? Can you and your 5 friends get together and talk? Or is it something that we're not allowed to do? Because those 5 guys got together and they made a plan and they blew up the building in Oklahoma City. So now, no more meetings of 5 or more people. Sorry, they ruined it for everybody. I'm sorry. It's a fucking constitutional amendment.
You're making a very reasonable point. And I have a hard time arguing with you on that. But I would say that almost unlike any other of the amendments that we have, the original amendments.
The original 10, yes. The Big 10, as it were.
The ones that regard guns are the ones that sort of have the most strenuous or the least strenuous hold on modern day society.
Why?
Because talking about organizing militias and
you don't understand the build of the clause. There is the militia clause is independent of the rest of the amendment. The amendment has here's what we're going to let you do, and here's an independent clause, and then here's another independent clause telling you what you're allowed to do. These are 3 independent clauses. They're not meant to be read together, but people like you like to read them without the commas, so you could say, "Oh, well, what it meant was to have a militia, the right of arms should not be stopped." And oh, by the way, the militia then was every able-bodied male.
Should I be allowed to own 100 guns?
Sure.
Should I be allowed to own 1,000 guns?
Sure.
You're not worried one bit if I own 1,000 guns.
I am not worried about you owning 1,000 guns because it is specific to you. Yes. Are there people who shouldn't have 1,000 guns? Right.
Can Ted Kaczynski have 1,000 guns?
Well, now he can't because he's a felon and he's in jail.
Well, I mean, pre-trouble Ted Kaczynski.
Sure.
He should be allowed to own 1,000 guns
until we find out he's Ted Kaczynski, and then he should have no guns. I don't care if you have 1,000,000 guns. If you're able to have one, you should have as many as you want. If you can't have one, then you shouldn't have any. And that's the breakdown. The breakdown is figuring out how do we stop that guy who shouldn't have one, not worrying about 17, one. Okay. Because if that kid owned one AR-15 and 1,000 rounds of ammunition, he could have done just as much damage as if he owned 17. It doesn't matter. That's what you people who don't understand guns don't understand. Right. You people.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about any of your guns. You can shove them all up your asshole sideways. I don't really care. Mm-hmm. So I don't really care what happens at the end of this day. I mean, I would prefer guns not be taken away because, I wouldn't want people who feel like they need one to feel more like a man to get rid of them. But, it should happen. So that's basically where I'm at right now.
And Roberto, friend of the show, Roberto, has been chiming in on the chat. Make sure you go check out the comment section on this video on YouTube, and you can see what he said. He's basically just making all the points that I would make. So he and I are like mind. And we only went 13 minutes past the deadline that we set.
13:40.
So moving on just to the news of the week, we're going to touch briefly on it, which is this. Robert Mueller investigation put out indictments on 13 Russian nationals, accusing them that they interfered with the U.S. election.
Yeah, we also got to see Big Rod Rosenstein out there talking
shit about it. Yeah. So it's breaking news. We were going to talk a little bit more about it, but unfortunately we talked about guns for that time. So in the end, we'll have to wait and see. I am not getting worked up about Russians getting indictments, though. I'm waiting for Americans to get indictments. That's what I want.
Well, there are Americans with indictments.
Oh, yes.
George Papadopoulos, Michael Flynn, Robert Gates.
Those led to these 13.
Paul Manafort, yeah.
And I imagine that Robert is very smart. I mean, guys, we are guys with the same name. We're all very smart.
Yeah.
And he is pushing these indictments out very
nobody would trust him if it was Corey Mueller.
Yeah, absolutely not.
They'd be like, I don't think this guy's got away with 6.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see.
The same exact person otherwise. His name's Corey, and it's just like, I don't know.
He doesn't seem trustworthy. We'll talk about that in the coming weeks as more information. A lot of what's going on now is just people like reading and digesting the indictments, and I haven't read the indictments. So
can I say just throw one thing in there that I like a lot? I think Mueller is trying to tiptoe around anything that has to do with Trump directly, just to make him think that there's nothing coming.
Yep.
Because they
lull them into a false sense of security.
They made when Rosenstein was going on about this, he said like 3 different times, and this might just be to make Trump feel better because it's Rosenstein up there doing the press conference, but he was like, there were no willing participants from any campaigns that were directly involved with these, but there were unwilling participants, which might make it seem like maybe all of the Trump campaign is just an unwilling participant.
Sure, everyone.
Like they all just stumbled ass backwards into a collusion. But I like the fact that Mueller just sort of keeps it back.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to imagine that he's just going to walk up to a podium one day and he's just like, hey guys, this day's about Trump. Just drop like a file folder. He's just like, shall we get started?
And just cameras start going off. They send the B-roll people because they're like, oh, here we go. 13 more Russian indictments.
I would like to announce today that I have 23. I'm sorry. 24 charges against President Donald Trump.
What?
Somebody already composed a tweet with 23 and had to delete it like an idiot.
And the collective pants of Democrats everywhere fill for one reason or the other, from shitting them in disbelief to, other
Coming with
excitements.
pleasure.
Yes. All right. So
Nothing makes me more excited than the idea of Nancy Pelosi coming with pleasure in her pants.
We've now reached a low point
You
for the
put
podcast.
you put that out there.
Thank
You're the
you.
one who did that. Thank you.
All right. So we have
Adam Schiff cream in his jeans.
We have 12 minutes left in this podcast, and I want to spend those 12 minutes taking a little stroll down to the Baltimore corner.
Where you get the straight dope.
A lot of news out of Baltimore. Let's wrap up where we were last week with the gun trace task force trial.
The guilty.
And you just jump in there on me?
Yeah, I'm
yes.
happy.
So two guys, both cops who were on trial.
I'm excited.
Guilty of everything except for using the handgun in the commission of a crime, which carried a mandatory minimum of 5 years per offense. And I think that the jury made an agreement back in the back that was like, let's give them everything that the judge gets to make up a number on.
Yeah.
And avoid the 5 years for
Avoid the mandatory minimum ones.
but guilty on everything except that. Catherine Pugh couldn't care less about the guilty findings. D'Souza, the interim commissioner, couldn't care less about the guilty findings. Basically, they're going about their business as if half the department hasn't been called into question about their tactics.
Half.
I was trying to be generous. I know you have friends who are Baltimore City cops, and
Yeah, they're the good apples, the ones that haven't been spoiled yet.
the very few.
The very few, the proud.
But so now we're seeing the fallout. I think they're doing sentencing coming up in a week or two, so we'll see exactly what the judge.
I've heard like 60 years is on the table.
God, I hope so. Put him in regular
people jail.
Yeah, and with everyone else. Gen Pop.
Yeah.
Gen Pop for these guys.
You should make them have to wear their Baltimore police uniforms. Only just handcuff them. That would see. I'm not. Generally speaking, I'm not for cruel and unusual punishment, but when it seems to fit so well, like in a situation like this, I think we should do it more.
Oh no, Roberto's going through and removing his comments. What's that about? Oh, Roberto, you chicken.
He doesn't want the FBI to get in it.
But so we'll wait and see.
Because that was all over for that guy too. When I saw when I was watching CNN and when I turned on the TV for half a minute on Friday while I was eating lunch and watching CNN, they were talking about like these comments on YouTube is what led investigators to be called, and it's just but he was putting up comments like I will fucking shoot a school. Like
it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we'll see what happens with the gun trace task force trial. Guilty is guilty, and even if they only have to serve a month of actual prison time, God, just put them in jail. Just put them there and let karma handle the rest. That's where I'm on that.
Here's the thing I'm really excited about. The brother of God, I can't remember. It's the white cop, Herschel.
Yes, sure.
The brother of Herschel was talking to some media after the guilty plea was found, and he. Number one, he's precious to me because he's like one of those Dundalk people who's just like, you ain't heard the last of Herschel. Like,
oh yes.
He said he's got many things to say, and he's going to write a book. And that the shocking developments that didn't come out in the case, but will sink the Baltimore Police Department that he has.
They'll be in the book.
Will be in the book, including who killed Suter.
Ooh.
Which is something that he knows but hasn't told the Baltimore Police Department because he knows they'd bury it.
Yeah, that sounds like obstruction of justice to me. But okay, sure, yeah. Maybe this new consultant that they're bringing in, maybe he'll talk to them.
Yeah.
Because Baltimore's problem solving comes down to how can we throw $350,000 at a consultant to make us look better?
How can we find somebody who looks independent so we don't have to deal with it?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But one of the bigger pieces of news, I did see the interview with Herschel's brother, and it just reminded me of any conversation with Rachel after she's had a couple glasses of wine. Just, all right, simmer down now.
I know everything that's going on right now.
Simmer down now.
I'm right here. Rob's right there. Corey's right there. My brother Herschel's in jail.
Oh, Dundalk. The other big piece of news that came out was that somebody in the state's attorney's office leaked a memo that showed that Marilyn Mosby hero of Baltimore, the one who was going to clean up the streets and put Freddie Gray's abusers in jail, knew about all of this a year ago.
Yeah.
At least in so much as there is a question about these police officers. Do not put them on the stand.
By the way, if you like the things that we talk about in the Baltimore Corner and you'd like to get more, just go to Twitter and type in hashtag Mosby New.
Oh yeah,
and just start following anybody who seems like they're fun. Because the hashtag Mosby New is going off like crazy on Baltimore Twitter right now.
Well, I could see. I probably have some text waiting from that crew. Actually, no, it's all West Coast people who are tweeting right now.
But yes, Mosby New, hashtag Mosby New. Check it out, because clearly her office knew what was going on.
Yeah,
and instead of prosecuting the police officers who were committing crimes, they just said, all right, don't put these guys on the stand because we don't want to have to answer questions about their reliability.
Also, I would like to take just a second before we move on to Baltimore County news.
Yeah.
To once again give the biggest of what's up to the Baltimore Public Defender's Office.
Oh, yeah.
Who, despite having absolutely no time
and no funding
to do anything, are still finding time to throw monkey wrenches in the works of how the city operates.
Yeah.
And they're just like, fuck you guys, I don't care anymore.
Well,
Public Defender's Office is on point right now. Let's give it up for them.
I love them, and they did this during the Freddie Gray trial. They stepped up during the uprising. They did everything they could have done, and now they're saying, we are going to review thousands of cases and bring anyone where the GTTF might have been involved, bring them back and ask for the judge to give them a new trial. Because by Mosby, who knew, hashtag Mosby knew, that these officers were dirty, by not telling the defense that any one of these officers was involved in it, she withheld information that could have made a difference in the trial. And that means that those people should all get a new trial. So if the budget in Baltimore wasn't bad enough, they're about to have to do thousands of new trials, or the state's attorney is going to have to drop a lot of cases from a lot of people who are sitting in prison right now. So,
yep.
But I don't know. We don't have a card for it. This is the Baltimore corner, but I guess this is the greater Baltimore area corner as well.
The Baltimore County corner.
Sure, yeah. So heading on out to Baltimore
Where you get the
County.
straight wicker.
It's lily white out there. Towson, the city we talked about earlier, that's in Baltimore County. So there you go. But a big case from last year that we talked about on several episodes of the podcast was Corrine Gaines, who was live streaming her standoff with police while her son was in the apartment.
Yeah.
And the last week or so, they have been doing the civil trial. Both officers were cleared, and one of them was given a promotion. The one who shot first was given a promotion. Not the one who shot the kid, because, yes, the police shot the kid. But the one who shot her was given a promotion.
Yeah.
And now both of them are under the civil trial. And some of the stuff that came out, it isn't as disturbing as the GTTF task force trial, but it is disturbing in other ways. Like the fact that the first shot that went off in that situation was fired blindly through a wall in the general direction of Corrine without knowing where the child was in the apartment.
Yeah.
And the fact that they had a standoff for 6.5 hours, and they didn't decide to go in until Facebook and Instagram came through and took down her live streams. So as soon as she couldn't live stream anymore, all of a sudden they're breaching into the apartment.
Yeah.
We knew this, but the confirmation that the child was shot by a police officer, not by his own mother, which is what they alleged the entire first few weeks of the case, and how they had been aware of who she was and how they were aware of her situation, and that this was like an ongoing scenario, and they never once called the hostage negotiation, which isn't that she was holding her son hostage, but those are the people who deal with people who are locked in somewhere. You don't send in the SWAT team. You send in a negotiator to try and talk them out. Yeah. And they refused to do that. They just waited for the live stream to get cut and then go in hard. And it's going to cost them. It's going to cost you, the taxpayers of Baltimore County. It's going to cost the police officers. It's going to cost the city or the county government.
Are the police officers in the county actually liable for some of this amount?
They're only covered in liability up to a certain level. That's my understanding. So everything that's above that, because by the way, the total amount was $37 million, 32 of which is going to her son who was shot in the altercation.
Yeah.
So hopefully I know we saw that memo from the Baltimore City Police Department where they're like, we don't have to cover your liability, and they can take up to 25% of your wages, and it's not dischargeable in bankruptcy. Like, I hope that they hit up all of those cops' pay, because overtime and
I'd rather them just be responsible for the $36 million. Honestly, like
Yeah.
I didn't see. Here's the fucked up thing about the idea of paying for a government and stuff like that is that if a government makes a mistake, then we pay for it still.
Yep.
So there's very little desire to get it right the first time. Like, it's fine if we make mistakes because we just have this big coffer full of money that we can use
Right.
to pay for it. So if our police are too aggressive with somebody that we know is just causing trouble, not causing trouble, but is going to
she does what I do with the police.
Yeah.
She
She's not going to
exacerbates the situation.
She is not going to make the situation any easier. And you have to realize you're going to have more patience in a situation like this. And then, good for them. I think that good for the son, I guess, for getting the judgment.
Yeah. And
it sounds like it's a lot more than I would have ever expected it would have been. But
And here's the way that these things work. They're not actually going to pay the $37 million. What they're going to do is appeal it, and then the lawyers will get together and be like, all right, so we got $37 million. What can we knock that down to? Oh, well, our liability coverage is up to $15 million per incident, and we'll talk to them, and they'll do a total of $20 million for all parties involved. Okay. Well, we'll take the $20 million, and that'll be it. And that's what they'll end up doing, but this kid is still going to be taken care of for the rest of his life after being, by the way, now probably being scarred and never wanting to deal with the police ever again, having them shoot your mother in front of you. But there is one bright spark of justice in the Maryland area. And now that was the gun trace task force last week. And then now we have a second one where this civil jury found them responsible. So and hopefully it makes Baltimore County look at their police and say, why is it that a jury of 8 was able to unanimously decide that they were responsible, but we cleared them in a week and a half?
Yeah.
Maybe we should try to analyze that. And is it Ken Kamenetz who's Baltimore County?
well, technically it was six weeks. But they had the 4 weeks where they couldn't discuss it
Right,
with the
right,
police
right,
the month beforehand. And then the 2 weeks after they were able to discuss it with the police officers is when they
That
wrapped it
cleared.
up.
Yeah. So,
And that's what I meant. It's
once the investigation, because they already know everything else except for what the police have to say.
Right.
So that's really where it jumps off. But is it Ken Kamenetz that's Baltimore County?
Kevin Kamenetz.
Kevin Kamenetz should probably analyze his police department and find out. You talk a lot of shit about the city police and how corrupt they are and how bad they are. Maybe it's time to take a look in your own house.
I'll talk about Baltimore County's house. You have way too many fucking police officers.
Yeah.
Way too many.
Yeah.
No way does you guys are Baltimore County acts like Baltimore City is just going to decide to invade one day.
Right. It actually that's
and that
basically
we need to have police officers in case that happens. In case Baltimore City just rises up and is like fuck this, we're taking Towson, we're annexing Towson to the city. Like,
and we've told stories before. Corey has especially told stories before about one traffic stop when he went to drop off his ex, and when he came back out, there was 9 cop cars sitting and waiting. Like, that's Baltimore County, just so you have an idea.
Baltimore County is the type of place where you will see 10 officers, like all sitting around like one person who's like handcuffed on the ground.
Yeah.
And then you'll ask somebody like, "Hey, what happened?" And it's just like she wouldn't leave. She was just sitting in front of the movie theater.
Yeah.
And now they got to handcuff her and throw her on the ground, and then 10 officers have like just like a little huddle going like, "So what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? This dangerous criminal."
Yeah.
Like,
That's Baltimore County.
Yeah, they don't get it. It's like they're like mall cops with actual responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, looking at the bright parts and not at the dull and dark parts, 2 instances of real justice in Maryland, and I'm happy to see both of those things come true in the last week. So,
yep. Can I throw in one last sort of Baltimore related thing?
Oh Lord, yeah, go ahead.
I saw it right before we got in. I'm not gonna make a big deal out of this.
Okay.
I would like to put it out in the universe in hopes that somebody hears it and decides to run with it. I saw Manny Machado. It had arrived at spring training.
yeah.
And he said he would like to stay with the Orioles because this is the only team he's ever known, and he wants to. He would be welcome to discussing it, but he hasn't even gotten an extension offer yet from the Orioles. They've never made an offer to him, so he can't.
Yeah.
He can't say he's going to stay without knowing what the terms are. So my message, real quick, to the Baltimore Orioles: make Manny an offer. Make him 10% less of whatever offer you think it would take to actually sign him. So, for even numbers' sake, let's say it's 10 years, $300 million for Manny. Just say we're offering you 10 years, $270 million plus incentives and contract bonuses and blah, 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 all that stuff. That's our deal. We're putting it on the table right now. You can sign it anytime you want. And put the onus on his camp to say, because listen, $270 million guaranteed right this second.
Yeah.
If week 1 he gets hit in the face with the ball and he can't see anymore, then he doesn't play baseball anymore. He doesn't make any more money.
He's got Bobby Bonilla money.
Yeah, $30 million. The discount of taking $30 million less to guarantee the money right now is nothing to sneeze at, especially when the difference between $270 million and $300 million is not that big.
No, not in the grand scheme.
Yeah, when you're comparing to
Yeah.
his life and what he's going to be able to enjoy. He's never going to know that $30 million.
But this goes back to everybody. You have to act like you want someone.
Yeah.
Like the Baltimore Orioles are acting like, well, he's going at the end of the season.
Right,
so
right,
let's
right.
just write it off. Act like you want him back. Get out there. Make an offer.
You know what the biggest, when I was a little kid, like when I was first learning about girls and stuff like that, I thought,
2-3 years ago. Yeah, go ahead.
I thought that, you didn't want to look too eager.
Right.
You didn't want to look. You wanted to look aloof. You wanted to be like, oh yeah, whatever. I mean, if you want to go to the mall, you can do that. Like, it seems like everyone's saying like girls really like it when you're aloof with it and stuff like that. And then later I learned, no, that's not the fucking case at all. Girls want attention. Girls want you to talk to them. They want to be like the middle of it all. Like, not everybody, but I mean like most. You get way more bees with honey in this situation.
Vinegar. Yes.
Yeah. Like. Just go for it. And I'd say if I'm the Orioles, if I'm Dan Duquette, I would do my Robert Mueller moment. Just like walk up to the press conference, drop the manila folder, and it's like, I got a contract in here for Manny Machado. It's 10 years, $270 million. Your move.
We're waiting
and
to
then
hear
walk
back.
away.
We're waiting to hear back from you, Manny.
Guess what? Got one here for Scope too.
Yeah.
Got one for Scope.
Wait, your buddy gets to stay too?
Oh, I got 2 contracts. I mean, I was only ready to announce one, but it looks like we have 2. So, we got an offer for Manny. We got an offer for Scope. Anytime you guys want to come over and talk about it,
come on.
I'm in my office. See you guys later. Bye.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. You know where you won't get 10-year, $300 million offers?
Oh, I already know the answer to this question. Go ahead.
OTheAnthem.com. Glory to OTheAnthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. And you can find more of my stuff at CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, including the new YouTube page with the reviews, where you will see a new review for Black Panther coming up early next week, Monday or Tuesday. Keep a lookout for it. In the meantime, look for the other reviews. The blog's up there, and you can find me facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, at LegendsCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat.
And of course, you can find me on all your social networks at Robert N. Cheek. Make sure you check out robertncheek.com, where you can find links to my political blog, the news website, and the books, which are available on Amazon.
Buy Rob's books. My elbow made an appearance.
On my side of the screen. And we're working on a new book now, working on a new screenplay, a lot of new exciting stuff. And if you want the inside line on all of that, the easiest way to do it is to sign up on Patreon, patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek, where you can get the early access to all the videos that I do. You can get behind the scenes stuff. You can get early versions of all the writings. All that stuff is available there. So go there and check it out at Patreon. And of course, you can find out my YouTube page as well, where the videos and the reviews will eventually go up, just not as early as the people for Patreon. So,
yeah. Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
Toodaloo.